Most people think money is a game of timing, markets, and luck. They wait for the economy to improve. They wait for a bigger opportunity. They wait for some kind of breakthrough to come from outside their lives. But Jim Rohn, who spent his entire life observing both successful people and those who stayed stuck, came to a very different conclusion. Two people can live in the same city, work in the same industry, and face the same economy, yet end up with completely opposite lives. Not because one is smarter, not because the other is luckier, but because they carry two very different philosophies with them every single day. Jim Rohn realized this. Money doesn't make you better. You become better, and then the money follows. Success doesn't come from big decisions. It's built from small habits, repeated quietly over time. And if your financial life feels stuck, chances are the problem isn't your income. It's the person you've become. He called this your personal philosophy, something schools never teach, yet it determines up to 80% of your life's results. So here's the real question. If you stay exactly who you are today, do you truly deserve the life you're dreaming of? And that's where Jim Rohn's 7 strategies begin. Strategy 1. Define your life goals, or you'll end up living someone else's. Jim Rohn once said something very direct. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And in someone else's plan, there's usually no room for your dreams. Most people fail because they're lazy. They fail because they're unclear. They wake up every morning, drive to the same job, complete the tasks they're assigned, pay their bills on time, wait for the weekend, and repeat the cycle unconsciously. Not because they lack ability, but because they've never truly stopped to answer one simple question: where am I actually going? Jim Rohn noticed a strange paradox. People can spend hours planning a one-week vacation, choosing hotels, booking flights, comparing prices down to the dollar, yet never spend a single evening seriously thinking about the next 10 or 20 years of their lives. And when there's no clear direction, life defaults to being run by circumstances, by deadlines, financial pressure, family expectations, or a society that constantly whispers, "Just be stable first." This is a picture many Americans know well. A young graduate lands a stable job. The pay covers the bills, there's health insurance, a 401k. At first, they believe it's just a temporary stop on their journey. Then 5 years pass, then 10. They're still there, not because they consciously chose to stay, but because there was no clear goal strong enough to pull them forward. When you don't know what you want, almost any path feels acceptable. And acceptable is where many dreams slowly die. Jim Rohn never said your goals have to be huge or glamorous. He didn't say everyone must become a millionaire or CEO. What he emphasized was clarity. Clarity about the kind of person you want to become. Clarity about what your ideal day looks like. Clarity about where you want freedom in time, location, finances, or peace of mind. When your goals are clear, they begin to act like an invisible filter. You naturally know which opportunities deserve a yes and which deserve a no, something most people struggle with simply because they don't have goals. And here's the practical lesson Jim Rohn stressed, especially for people living in a world overloaded with choices. You cannot manage your life on random motivation alone. You need to write your goals down, not to daydream, but to confront your future self. Once a goal is written and reviewed daily, it starts to change very real, very small behaviors. How you spend your evenings, how you use your money at the end of the month, who you choose to spend time with, and whether you have the courage to say no to a job that pays well but slowly drains your soul. Jim Rohn believed the moment life truly changes direction isn't when you start making more money, it's when you decide who you want to become. From that decision, discipline is born. From discipline, skills grow. And money, opportunity, and freedom are simply the byproducts. Without clear life goals, you may stay extremely busy, but you won't be going anywhere. And that is is the most expensive price a person can pay.
Strategy 2. Grow yourself before you grow your bank account. Jim Rohn once said something that sounds almost ordinary, but if you truly understand it, it can redirect the entire course of a person's life. Don't wish for a higher salary. Wish to become more valuable. Jim Rohn didn't dismiss money. On the contrary, he understood that money can create freedom, options, and dignity in life. But he also faced a hard truth head-on. Most people are trying to change their financial results without changing the person who produces those results. And because of that, even when money arrives, it rarely stays. In Jim Rohn's philosophy, income is not a target to chase, it's an unavoidable byproduct of personal value. It reflects how you think, how you work, how you handle responsibility, and how effectively you solve problems for others. The marketplace doesn't pay for effort, it pays for ability. It doesn't pay for hope, it pays for tangible value. Look at a situation we see all the time. Someone works in the same industry for 10 or 15 years, yet their skills barely change, their mindset stays the same, and their approach to work never evolves. When layoffs happen, when AI replaces part of their role, or when the economy slows down, they feel betrayed. But Jim Rohn wouldn't ask what the market did to you. He would ask, what did you do each year to become more valuable? Jim Rohn believed personal development is the only investment that never depreciates. The knowledge you gain, the skills you build, the discipline you develop, no one can take them away. A person who upgrades their thinking sees opportunity where others see risk. A disciplined person keeps moving forward when most people stop. A person who communicates well, keeps their word, and creates value for the group will always be trusted. And money, in the end, always flows toward trust. Jim Rohn didn't advise chasing success. He advised chasing the process of becoming the person worthy of that success. Read books not to collect information, but to change the way you think. Learn skills not to show them off, but to solve problems better for others. Build habits not to make today harder, but to buy freedom tomorrow. When you become a more valuable version of yourself, money no longer needs to be hunted. It shows up as opportunities, relationships, offers, and doors you previously didn't even have the capacity to see. In Jim Rohn's worldview, your bank account is simply a snapshot of the final result. The real work, the most important work, is always happening quietly inside you, day by day.
Strategy 3. Small disciplines create big freedom. Jim Rohn once said something that sounds light, but its consequences are anything but. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. He wasn't talking about harsh discipline, the kind that turns life into a machine. Jim Rohn was talking about choices so small that we often tell ourselves, skipping today won't hurt. Skipping a reading session, putting off tracking your expenses, scrolling TikTok or Instagram instead of spending 20 minutes thinking about your future. None of these choices is big enough to ruin your life overnight, and that's exactly why they're dangerous. Jim Rohn observed an uncomfortable truth. Most people don't destroy their lives with one massive mistake. They do it through thousands of tiny decisions repeated unconsciously. Life doesn't drift off course because they chose the wrong direction. It drifts because they didn't choose at all. Picture a familiar scenario. Someone works full-time under just enough pressure to feel tired, but not enough to quit. Every evening, they face two very ordinary options. They can continue on autopilot, TV, social media, quick entertainment, or they can invest a small block of time into learning, reading, building a skill, or organizing their personal finances. Neither choice produces dramatic results in a week or a month, but after 5 years,
10 years, the gap between those two people becomes undeniable. One feels trapped in a job they dislike. The other has options, and options are freedom. Jim Rohn believed discipline is not punishment, it's a form of self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you build internal trust. And when a person trusts themselves, they behave differently. They don't quit as easily. They don't make excuses as easily. They don't settle for less than they're capable of. The biggest paradox Jim Rohn pointed out is this. At the beginning, discipline feels like a loss of freedom. You have to say no to certain comforts and familiar pleasures. But over time, it's indulgence and self-neglect that become the real prison. Without financial discipline, you live according to bills. Without learning discipline, you live according to the job market. Without health discipline, you live according to your body's limitations. No one forces this on you. You slowly hand control of your life over to procrastination. Jim Rohn didn't believe in motivation. He believed in structure. Motivation comes and goes, but small disciplines repeated long enough create a different person, and a different person lives a different life. From the outside, people call it success, a breakthrough, or luck. But to Jim Rohn, nothing about it is surprising. It's simply the unavoidable result of small choices made every day in silence when no one is watching. And this strategy ends with an unspoken question that always lingers. Each day, are you accumulating discipline to buy your freedom, or accumulating comfort and paying for it with your future?
Strategy 4. Manage money not to get rich, but to avoid being poor. Jim Rohn once made a clear, almost cold observation. Most people don't struggle because they earn too little money. They struggle because they don't control the money they already have. It sounds simple, but look closely and you'll see it's the line that separates two completely different ways of living. In Jim Rohn's philosophy, making money and keeping money are two separate skills. Someone can be very good at generating income, yet live in constant financial stress without basic financial discipline. He noticed a familiar paradox. The more people earn, the easier it becomes to grow careless, to spend emotionally, chase appearances, give in to social pressure, and still feel just as insecure as when they had nothing. Jim Rohn didn't see money management as a fast track to wealth. To him, it was the immune system of life. It doesn't create dramatic breakthroughs, but it prevents collapse. Poverty rarely arrives through one major disaster. It usually forms quietly, through overused credit cards, through lifestyles that exceed income, through constantly saying just this once, until the exception becomes the habit. This pattern is painfully common. Many people earn decent salaries, yet live paycheck to paycheck. One small disruption, a medical bill, a short period of unemployment, is enough to send them into panic. Jim Rohn believed this isn't a tragedy of income, it's the consequence of never building a minimum financial foundation to protect yourself. He didn't promote extreme frugality or deprivation. What he emphasized was awareness. When every dollar leaving your hand has a clear purpose, you're not just managing expenses, you're reclaiming control over your life. But when money disappears without your understanding, life slowly becomes reactive, drifting, and ruled by pressure. The deepest insight of this strategy is simple. Money management doesn't create excitement, it creates peace. And that peace gives your mind the space to learn, grow, and wait for the right opportunities. Jim Rohn believed many people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they're never stable enough to stay in the game long enough. To him, money management doesn't reveal how rich you are. It reveals how mature you are. Before dreaming of financial freedom, the minimum requirement is this: money should not be the constant source of fear in your life. Only when money stops controlling you do you truly gain choice. And choice is the foundation of all lasting wealth.
Strategy 5. Relationships shape the direction of your life. Jim Rohn once said something that makes many people uncomfortable, not because it's wrong, but because it's painfully accurate. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. He didn't say this to judge anyone, and he wasn't giving shallow advice about choosing friends. Jim Rohn was pointing to a force more subtle and more powerful than money or talent: the human environment you breathe in every single day. A person's life rarely goes off track because of one bad decision. It drifts because of repeated conversations, familiar phrases, unchallenged beliefs. Someone may not become poor overnight by sitting in a group that constantly complains about work, the economy, or the system. But over time, they learn something dangerous: that standing still is reasonable, and that trying is foolish. Jim Rohn observed this carefully. He noticed that an environment doesn't have to pull you down, it only needs to slow you down long enough. Slow your thinking, slow your action, slow your belief that life could be different. And eventually, you start calling that state reality. On the other hand, when someone steps into a different circle, one where people talk about what they're learning, what they're building, what they're trying and failing at, a quiet shift begins. No one lectures you, no one forces you to improve, but the standards around you are different. The stories you hear every day are no longer about resentment or dissatisfaction. They're about personal responsibility and choice. In a context very familiar to Americans, the contrast is clear. Someone gets off work and spends most of their time consuming content that fuels anger, comparison, and exhaustion. Over time, they begin to believe life is nothing more than a series of reactions. Another person, with a similar starting point, intentionally seeks out growth-oriented communities, deeper conversations, and relationships that encourage learning, and suddenly starts seeing paths they never realized existed. Jim Rohn never advised cutting off all old relationships. He didn't promote coldness or ruthless pragmatism. What he emphasized was conscious choice. Who makes you think bigger after every conversation? Who makes you take your time more seriously? And who, often unintentionally, keeps you in your comfort zone? Not because they're bad people, but because your growth makes them uncomfortable. Take a deep breath and sit with that for a moment. Jim Rohn called relationships an invisible form of leverage. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to stay close to people who are asking better questions. You don't need to become exceptional overnight. You simply need to be in an environment where growth isn't considered strange. In the end, this strategy isn't about who will carry you to success. It's about who you allow to shape your standards for living. And when standards change, behavior follows. When behavior changes long enough, the direction of your life shifts, quietly, but irreversibly.
Strategy 6. Learn to live well before you're rich. Jim Rohn once made an observation that leaves many people quietly reflecting. If someone doesn't know how to live well when they have little, money won't teach them how to live better when they have everything. Most people unconsciously place their lives on pause. They believe happiness, calmness, discipline, and decent values are rewards that arrive after financial success. When I earn more, I'll stress less. When I have enough, I'll spend time with my family. When I'm stable, then I'll start living right.
But Jim Rohn saw an uncomfortable truth. Many people never reach that when, because the way they live today quietly extends the very cycle they want to escape. He understood that money doesn't fix poor life habits, it amplifies them. A disorganized person becomes more disorganized with money. Someone who avoids responsibility finds more sophisticated excuses when their status rises. A person who doesn't respect their time, health, or promises when they're not rich doesn't suddenly become grounded and composed just because their bank balance grows. In Jim Rohn's philosophy, your current life is not a waiting room for a better future. It's the training ground that prepares you to deserve that future. How you use your mornings, how you speak to your loved ones when you're tired, how you treat your work when no one is noticing. No one pays you for these things immediately, but they are shaping the person you'll be when real opportunities arrive. Consider a familiar scenario. Two people earn nearly the same income. One keeps saying they'll live with discipline once things improve. So for now, they eat carelessly, live in chaos, and overconsume entertainment to numb stress. The other, though not rich, keeps their home in order, manages time reasonably well, eats with balance, reads a few pages each night, and shows up fully for their family on weekends. No one calls the second person wildly successful, but in Jim Rohn's eyes, they're living like someone ready for success. Jim Rohn also warned against a dangerous illusion, believing money will automatically bring order into your life. In reality, order has to come first, then money has somewhere stable to land. A person without structure uses money to patch emotional gaps. A person without discipline uses money to buy short-term relief. And when money is no longer enough to cover those gaps, they fall back into the same dissatisfaction, just at a higher cost. The core message of this strategy isn't moralistic, it's practical. Live as the person you want to become, even when your circumstances don't yet reflect it. Maintain small standards when no one is watching. Respect yourself in how you eat, live, work, and communicate. Not to prove anything to the world, but to build a solid foundation for yourself. Jim Rohn believed money always follows the person, it never leads them. And if you learn to live with order, dignity, and depth before you're rich, then when money arrives, it won't confuse you. It will simply magnify the person you've been quietly building all along. That's why he emphasized this so strongly. Don't wait to be rich to learn how to live well. Live well first, and wealth, in its truest form, will know when to find you.
Strategy 7. Become valuable to society. Jim Rohn once made a clear point. Money doesn't chase need, it chases value. You may need money, you may want to be rich, but society doesn't pay for personal desire, it pays for problems solved. In Jim Rohn's view, the biggest mistake people make isn't earning too little money, it's asking the wrong question. They ask, how can I get paid more? When the better question is, what value am I creating, and how much is that value worth? When you focus only on money as the outcome, the world will always feel unfair as you compare yourself to others. But when you focus on the value you bring, the world begins to respond with surprising clarity. Jim Rohn observed that every person, whether they realize it or not, is selling something invisible every single day. The way they think, the way they behave, their level of reliability, their ability to solve problems, and the attitude they bring into every interaction. Two people can do the same job, work the same hours, and hold the same title. Yet the higher paid person isn't luckier, they're more valuable in the moments they show up. In modern American society, this is especially visible. The highest paid individuals are rarely the ones working the hardest in a physical sense.
They are the ones who see problems before they become crises, the ones who turn complexity into clarity, the ones whose presence makes things easier for everyone else. Their value isn't measured in hours worked, it's measured in impact created. Jim Rohn wasn't talking about becoming famous or holding a high title. He was talking about a quiet internal shift. Instead of asking, "What do I deserve?" ask, "Who am I becoming?" Instead of waiting for better opportunities, raise your personal standards. Instead of demanding recognition, consistently do more than what's required, quietly. The deepest insight of this strategy is simple. Value is not something you claim, it's something others feel. When you keep your word even when no one is checking, when you prepare more than necessary, when you take responsibility instead of blame, when you do quality work even without immediate reward. These actions don't make noise, but they compound into a person the market finds hard to replace. Jim Rohn believed sustainable wealth doesn't come from forcing life to pay you more. It comes from becoming the kind of person life is willing to pay a premium to keep. When you create enough value, you don't have to chase opportunities. They come to you, through relationships, through trust, through a reputation built quietly over time. And this is the final strategy, but also the foundation beneath all the others. Don't pursue money as the goal. Pursue becoming a valuable human being. Because when you become someone society truly needs, money becomes a natural consequence, arriving at the right time, in the right amount, and staying long enough to matter. Jim Rohn never promised that life would be easy. He said something far simpler and far harder to live by. If you become a better person, your life will naturally become better. Money, success, happiness, they are all side effects of the philosophy you choose to live by each day. No complicated strategies, no hidden secrets, just small decisions repeated over time, in how you think, how you work, how you manage money, and how you treat other people. If you want to go deeper into these 7 strategies, not just to understand them, but to live differently, read 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness by Jim Rohn. You'll find the link in the description below. Sometimes, the biggest change in your life begins with rereading the instruction manual for yourself.